Those flowers right there, those coreopsis, they weren't open just a few days ago. They were just little tiny buds waiting to open up into the sun. I've been keeping an eye on this corner of the prairie meadow here at the church and noticed these have just opened up their blossoms in the last couple of days. You might not have noticed, I wouldn't have noticed, except that they happened to catch my eye from a distance back looking out the window inside the church. And of course, this whole space was just, bare, empty dirt back in January, and people brought handfuls of seed and scattered it, and while we weren't looking, while we were living through the winter and springtime, things have started to grow here. That's the imagery Jesus uses when he talks about how the reign of God, the kingdom of God, happens. That instead of the kingdom of God marching in like an invading army, the kingdom of God comes quietly, almost imperceptibly sometimes, while we're looking the other way without even our awareness. We might have small part in contributing to the growth of the reign of God, but God makes it happen, and it's always bigger than our efforts. That's what we're going to take a look at this coming Sunday as we hear from Mark's gospel, as Jesus describes the kingdom of God being like somebody who plants seed in the field and then goes to sleep and it grows through the night, and he doesn't even understand how the growth happens. It just does, and he trusts that the seed and the plants are going to do what they're supposed to do. Or Jesus then says, the reign of God's like a mustard seed, this little tiny seed that grows into this shrub that's big enough even to hold birds to make their nests in, so that it grows not just big for its own sake, but big that it can offer shelter to other creatures in God's world. Jesus says this is what the reign of God is like. And it's really humbling, if you think about it, to recognize then that whatever God's kingdom, whatever God's reign looks like, it's never quite reducible to something we can control or keep in our grasp. God's reign is always growing bigger, slipping through our fingers, but also the growth of God's reign in the world doesn't just depend on my effort or my labor or even being publicly announced. For people in Jesus' day who were used to seeing signs of kingdoms like, say, the Roman Empire in big, loud noise, right? The loud noise of rushing, marching armies, or the blare of war trumpets, or the fluttering of Roman imperial flags. The reign of God sounds awfully quiet, almost subversive, happening right beneath our noses, right underneath the radar of Caesar and Herod and all the other loud pretender kings of the world. And that's just the point. God's reign is both bigger than all those other kinds of kingdoms, but also works in the small, the subtle, and the almost invisible. And we are invited to participate in it. To be a part of the reign of God is to be willing to offer whatever our talent, our time, our energy, our love allow us to offer, and to say, God, I don't know how you'll use this, but use this for the sake of something good in the world, to bring about your reign, your kingdom in the world. In a time like ours, when sometimes people think that what church folks need to do is to be louder and angry, and we need to dominate things more and take more control, Jesus says, no, just the opposite. God's kingdom isn't like that. God's reign doesn't operate like, say, the empires of the world. God's reign operates like little flower blossoms that open overnight that you didn't even realize were happening until they catch your eye. God's reign happens while we're looking the other way and grows up in quiet, small ways from the ground. God's kingdom fills and expands everywhere, but doesn't dominate or conquer. It grows. That's the conversation we're going to be having this coming Sunday, and we invite you to be a part of that conversation as we explore what it looks like to be a part of God's reign growing up all around us. See you Sunday.